Hey everyone, sorry I'm late today. I woke up with a headache, so I had to take a few hours of rest. But we are here again for more Clues by Sam, and we have a hard one today on the 1st of November. If you don't know what Clues by Sam is, it's a daily logic puzzle game where you have 20 people on a board. Some of them are criminals, some of them are innocents. They give you clues to help you figure out who is a criminal and who is an innocent, and you gotta do no guessing. If you want to play before you watch, there's a link in the description, but if you want to just go with me, we can see that Brian has our first clue, so let's start now. Brian tells us that no cop has an innocent directly above them. How many cops do we have? Vince and Zed. Oh, the innocents are not above them, so we know about 2 criminals already. Any more cops? No, doesn't look like it. So we don't need Brian's clue anymore, but we have Nicole and Thor. Now Nicole tells us that exactly 2 of Gary's 7 innocent neighbors also neighbor Alex. So we know that Gary has 8 neighbors total. 7 of them are innocent, and 2 of them also neighbor Alex. Alex is here. He shares 2 neighbors with Gary total, so both of them have to be innocent. One of them is Brian, who was already an innocent, and the other one is Evie. We don't know about the rest though. Now Thor tells us that Ruth and Brian have an equal number of criminal neighbors. Where's Ruth? Here. Well, Ruth has at least 1 criminal neighbor, who is Thor. Brian is here, and there's 4 more neighbors that we haven't assigned yet. So let's keep that clue in mind and look at Evie's. Evie tells us there's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5. We don't know about row 5, but we know about row 2. What? Oh, maybe my headache isn't gonna help in this. There's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5. We know that Gary has 7 criminal neighbors. If that is Hilda and Ruth and Brian have an equal number of criminal neighbors, Brian, let's say that, well, it's not possible, first of all, for Brian to have 4 criminal neighbors. The most he could have is 2. Because Gary can only have 1 criminal neighbor that he shares with Brian. So either Alex, Cole, or Hilda are the people who could be criminals. And Gary himself could be a criminal. So that would make Brian have 2 criminal neighbors, right? Now Ruth has 1 criminal neighbor already. The other thing is that no criminal neighbors of Gary's might be here. So Brian may have only 1 criminal neighbor, and that could be Gary himself, which would make Gary's criminal neighbor be in row 3, and Brian have only 1 criminal neighbor. So what do we have to think about? We have to think about Gary sharing 2 neighbors with Ruth, having 1 criminal neighbor, and Brian and Ruth having the same number of criminal neighbors. Right? But since Ruth already has 1 criminal neighbor, we have to assume that either Gary or someone else here is a criminal. How do we define who that is? If Gary's criminal neighbor were to be in row 3, am I making this more complicated than it needs to be? Let's say that Gary's criminal neighbor is here. Then Gary himself would have to be a criminal. And then Ruth would have 2 criminal neighbors, which would make Brian have to have 2 criminal neighbors. So there couldn't be a criminal here shared by Gary and Ruth, because that will break the triad that we have here. Does that make sense for you? Because imagine if either Katie or Lucy were to be criminals. There's no way for Brian to have 2 criminal neighbors. So these 2 are both innocents. That's what we know. We don't know about Gary yet. We don't know about Hilda, Chloe, or Alex yet. Or Jason. But we know about these 2. Nice. I was getting nervous there. Now Katie tells us that Lucy and Martin have 2 innocent neighbors in common. Okay, Martin's here, Lucy is here. They have 4 neighbors shared in total. And 2 of them are innocent. Again, it may be Hilda. And if Hilda is a criminal, well, all I mean is that they have 4 shared in common. If 2 of them are innocent, 2 of them are criminal, right? If Hilda is a criminal, that's okay, because the other 2 could be innocents and that doesn't matter. If Hilda is an innocent, does it matter if any of the other ones are criminals? It doesn't. So maybe we should leave that for later. And let's look at Lucy's clue. Martin and Evie have an equal number of criminal neighbors. Now that helps us a little bit, I think, because we know that Martin will have 2 criminal neighbors, since he has 2 criminal neighbors shared with Lucy, and Lucy is the 5th neighbor that he has, besides the 4 that he shares with Lucy. So Martin has 2 criminal neighbors total, which means that Evie has 2 criminal neighbors. Since Evie has to have 2 criminal neighbors, but 2 of the ones that are not assigned she shares with Gary, and Gary can only have 1 criminal neighbor, we know that Gary has to be a criminal. So that is 1. And here we have a one or the other situation between Alex and Jason, which tells us that both Hilda and Chloe are innocent, because Gary only has 1 criminal neighbor. The plot thickens, yeah. Now Chloe tells us that Martin is one of 10 innocents on the edges. So we know now that Martin is an innocent, and there's 10 innocents on the edges. What we also know is that Ruth and Isaac are a one or the other situation. And oh, I guess we still don't know if Brian has 2 criminal neighbors or not. So what else do we know? Lucy and Martin share 2 innocent neighbors in common. Yeah, we're keeping that in mind. There's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5. Do we have to look at that now? Let's count the number of innocents that we have already. We have 2. Oh, it's on the edges, so 2. 3 with someone that's either going to be Alex or Jason. 4 with Evie. 5 with Martin. Let's try to see what happens if Isaac is an innocent. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 innocents on the edges. And row 2 has 3 innocents, which would have row 5 have 3 innocents as well, and that's 9 total. Which is okay. If Isaac, because we could have Daniel be an innocent, if Isaac is a criminal, now there's no way for there to be 10 innocents on the edges. Because now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's only going to be 2 innocents in row 5. So that's going to be 7. Where are the other innocents on the edges? There isn't none. So Isaac has to be an innocent. Oh, there is none. Sorry. And because Isaac is an innocent, we know that Ruth is a criminal. And I guess we also know that Daniel is an innocent because of what I just said before. We have to have 10 innocents on the edges. And so far we have 3 down here, because row 2 and row 5 have the same number of innocents. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 with someone from here. So Daniel has to be an innocent as well. And Isaac tells us that exactly 3 of Paula's 5 innocent neighbors also neighbor Nicole. Where's Paula? 5 innocent neighbors. And also neighbor Nicole. Okay, Paula and Nicole share 4 neighbors total. 3 of them are innocent. One of them is Katie, who is already an innocent. There's gonna be 2 more. It could be Jason and someone down here. Or it could be both Vince and Wanda, and then Jason will be a criminal. So how do we deal with that? We don't need this clue anymore. Lucy and Martin. We don't need that clue anymore. Thor tells us that Ruth and Brian have an equal number of criminal neighbors. Let's look at that. Let's look at that, because Ruth can have at most 2 criminal neighbors. Let's say that's Wanda. If Wanda is a criminal, we know that row 5 has to have 3 innocent neighbors, or 3 innocents total. So Vince, Xena, and Zed would have to be innocents, because Wanda is a criminal. Ruth can only have 5. Ruth can only have 2 criminal neighbors total. So Paula will be an innocent as well. And now we know that now we know that Nicole has to have 3 innocent neighbors, so Jason has to be an innocent, and Alex will have to be a criminal. So that works. If for any reason both Wanda and Vince are innocent, and let's say someone else here is a criminal, Jason has to be a criminal, and Alex has to be an innocent. Now that doesn't work, Because now Brian only has one criminal neighbor while Ruth has two. So what would work would for Vance to be a criminal and Jason an innocent? Oh, that wouldn't work actually. That wouldn't work. Because now Ruth has only one criminal neighbor while Brian has two. So Vance has to be an innocent, is that it? Because roll 5 has to have 3 innocents? What if all of them are innocents and Paula is a criminal? That works. So we know that Vance has to be an innocent. Because if he were to be a criminal, that would break Ruth and Brian's situation. Or I guess it wouldn't, because Paula could be a criminal if Vance... No, because Nicole has 3 total, right? Who's talking about Nicole? Three of Paula's 5 innocent neighbors also neighbor Nicole. Also, we gotta also think about Paula. And yeah, it doesn't matter for Nicole actually. We just know that Nicole has 3 innocent neighbors besides Paula, and it doesn't matter what Paula is, just what they share. So we know that Paula has 5 innocent neighbors, which means she has to have one more criminal neighbor. And that is going to be the criminal one. And so this situation works for Vance to be a criminal. Because now Ruth has 2 criminal neighbors, Brian has 2 criminal neighbors, Nicole shares 3 innocent neighbors with Paula, and Paula has 5 innocent neighbors. So Vance could be a criminal. There's nothing prohibiting that. I'm glad that I proved it. So let's go back to Vance being innocent and Jason a criminal. Now that doesn't work. And that doesn't work because Brian doesn't have 2 criminal neighbors. Ruth... Well, it could work if Paula is an innocent, because it doesn't matter for Paula. So Jason could be a criminal. We don't know about that yet. What about Wanda? Do we know about Wanda? If Wanda were to be a criminal and Jason an innocent? That also works. That also works. Ruth has 2. Ryan has 2. Paula has 5 innocent neighbors. Nicole shares 3 innocent neighbors with Paula. What should I be looking at then? Gary 7 innocent neighbors. That doesn't matter for us anymore. I guess what we do know is that Zed and Xena are innocents because in all of the scenarios that I tested, Zed and Xena were innocents. Because if I make any one of them criminals, that breaks. Now Jason has to be a criminal and Alex an innocent. And that breaks. Or if Jason is innocent and Alex a criminal, someone else here is gonna have to be. Oh, you know about Xena, because in this situation, Zed could be a criminal. Ruth would have 2 criminal neighbors. So Xena has to be an innocent because she's shared by Paul and Ruth. But Zed doesn't matter because he's not shared by Paula and Ruth. So Xena is an innocent. Well, that doesn't give me a new clue. So what do I check now? Is it the same logic for Wanda because she's shared by Ruth and Paula? Because Ruth and Brian have an equal number of criminal neighbors. So if Wanda were to be a criminal, nah, that works. Is that an innocent? That works. Now what if Paula were a criminal? Someone from here would have to be a criminal and it couldn't be Jason. Because that would break Brian and Ruth's relationship. So we know that someone from down here has to be a criminal. So that Brian can have 2 criminal neighbors. Right? Or I guess Paula could be an innocent. So what scenario am I looking for? This couldn't be. Because now Ruth has 2 criminal neighbors. And Brian has only 1. But if Jason were to be an innocent and Alex a criminal, that works if Vance is a criminal. Ruth has 2. Brian has 2. Nicole and Paula share 3 innocents. And Paula has 5 innocent neighbors. So that works. But if Zed is an innocent and Wanda is a criminal, same thing. It works as well. If Wanda is an innocent and Paula is a criminal, so do we know that Vance cannot be a criminal now? Sorry, because if he is, Paula has to be. And if he is an innocent and Wanda is a criminal, this also works. What am I missing? Two of Gary's 7 innocent neighbors, also neighbor Alex. Yeah. There's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5, which is 1. Three of Paula's 5 innocent neighbors, neighbor Nicole. That's plausible. Ruth and Brian have an equal number of criminal neighbors, which may be 2 or 1. 2 of guards. Okay. I guess Nicole's school doesn't matter anymore. It's rooted into my brain already. Let's try again. Maybe I miscounted something. Let's try to make Alex an innocent, and because he's an innocent, we know that Jason has to be a criminal. Now both Vance and Wanda are innocents, because Paula and Nicole have to share 3 innocent neighbors. And Ruth cannot have any more criminal neighbors because Brian has no more criminal neighbors than 1. So that will make Zed have to be an innocent as well, and that will break row 5 because row 5 has to have a criminal. So I guess we know that Alex couldn't be an innocent. And this is a one or the other situation here. And now we know that Ruth has to have 1 more criminal neighbor because Brian has 2. So it will depend on whether Paula is a criminal or not. Right? I'm loving this one. It's hard, but it's straightforward. There's an equal number of criminals in rows 2 and 5. We know about that. And there's gonna be 1 criminal here for sure, so we know that Zed is an innocent. Now Zed tells us there's not a number of innocents neighboring Nicole. And that's gonna be the 3 that she shares with Paula. So we know that Paula is not an innocent. And since Paula is Ruth's 2nd criminal neighbor, we know that Wanda cannot be a criminal, so she's an innocent, and Vince is a criminal. That was it. Even sick, I was able to do the hard one with no mistakes. It took a little while, so if you watched up to here, thank you so much for watching. I hope you had fun. If you did the puzzle, let me know how it went for you, because I love to hear that. And I hope it went as well as it went for me. I will see you tomorrow with more clues by Sam. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see that. And yeah, I won't be doing any streams today because I'm sick. But so I'm gonna rest more. But thank you so much, guys. See you tomorrow.